medal table building. It's being led by Spain with 4 goals to the 2 of Italy. And the first action on the track is the free practice session for GT Sprint. The cars on track, some off track indeed. The UAE's Porsche, that is Saif Al-Ameri, who's had a spin up at turn 2. David Addison and Joe Osborne are with cornflakes and espresso to the ready for the early start to the day, and it's a bit of a wake-up call for the competitors. Some, of course, haven't done anything all weekend. Some have been in the 2-driver GT discipline. That might give them a bit of an advantage, but for this race, Joe, when we get to the race later on in the day, we're talking about 1 driver, no pit stops, just absolutely flat out for the 40 minutes.
Yeah, and that's what makes great racing. Obviously, these cars not using tyre ovens like the endurance race yesterday, so that's why I'm maybe not so surprised to see that Porsche loop it round on the second corner on the outlap. Stone cold slicks, don't offer much grip whatsoever, so easily done. As we see another Porsche from Turkey, Guven, very, very fast. Porsche factory driver, definitely going to be one to watch. Another one in the Lamborghini, Jafar, we have seen being very quick at times in the past as well. That car was in the endurance race, but Jafar was not one of the drivers, so we always have every split, don't we? Some drivers not raced at all, some cars have, and some cars are fully new also.
Now, one of the cars that we did see in the endurance discipline was the Team Germany Mercedes that Hubert Haupt and Finn Wiebelhaus shared and won gold. Finn Wiebelhaus will represent Germany in the sprint. For Malaysia, we are going to have the experienced Jasmine Jafar, who of course raced in British single-seater racing for a while, but more recently has been racing in Asian Le Mans, in GT World Challenge Asia, and Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia as well this year. And Jasmine Jafar, we know he's quick. I think he could be a dark horse if that car is going to be on the same sort of pace as our tips for the top, the Team Turkey Porsche of Ayhan Guven and the Team Spain Mercedes of Daniel Junqueira. If he can live with them, I think he's in with a good chance of a medal.
Yeah, and we saw brilliant pace, didn't we, from that car in race 1, where it started in last position, got up to 6th, but did have a spin at turn 12, which has really been the hot spot of action, I would say, during the races here in Valencia for the Motorsport Games. It's just a very fast right-hander, easily caught out the drivers, and we are heading there right this second. You can see it goes uphill. There's a big sausage curb on the inside and a huge gravel trap welcoming these cars with open arms if they do make a slight misjudgment.
Now, this session is not a qualifying, it is a free practice period. It's a half-an-hour session for them just to dial themselves in, get the cars set up. When we get to qualifying, which will come a little bit later in the morning, we have one normal session, and then the order of that dictates the time and the order in which they are released for Super Pole, that double lap shootout. So it's another interesting quirk. You know, we've had some categories where it's one qualifying session and a qualifying race for the medal grid. We've had others where it's a combined average qualifying session for just one race. And here we've got a qualifying and a Super Pole, and then the 40-minute race. Now, for Spain, this has got to be one of the favourites for a gold, hasn't it? Daniel Junqueira, he's won with Mercedes in World Challenge Endurance Cup in Europe and the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli. In comes another of the Mercedes, the Haupt racing car of Team Germany's Finn Wiebelhaus, winner of gold in the endurance race, if you like, the 2-driver GT discipline yesterday. Yeah, they did very well. Obviously, a tight battle with the United Kingdom that was ultimately decided on penalties, track limit penalties that is, and yeah, Team Germany taking the gold. They were very strong over the full day, in all honesty. Spain, obviously, interestingly, swapping from the Audi to the Mercedes for this discipline. Obviously, Junqueira being a Mercedes factory driver, that was always going to be on the cards, but all the other nations sticking with the same manufacturer that they were with yesterday. Now, a bit of a quirk is a sentence we need to try and practice a few times. This is Darren Lung in a Ferrari. Normally we say BMW, that's the sort of car in which he won British GT Championship last year. Class winner, the bronze category in GT World Challenge Europe Endurance, Sprint Cup this year. He's been driving for the BMW brand within the World Endurance Championship as well. But for this weekend, he goes to Ferrari. Yeah, a real big change, and I say that really
in terms of its severity, because it couldn't be more different to the BMW, how it generates its lap time, that Ferrari. The BMW, very quick in a straight line, maybe not the most nimble in the corners. The Ferrari, the complete opposite, engine, the other end of the chassis as well. So Darren's got a big ask here this weekend. He's definitely maybe got an eye on next season, and that's his motivation to try something new towards the end of the season. I spoke to Darren this morning. He was a little apprehensive, but a fair bit of smoke coming out the rear right there as well. Couldn't really see where that was coming from. Didn't look like tyre smoke because it was coming out of the back of the engine deck. Hopefully for AF course with that car, that's just maybe the engine oil finding its level. Obviously the teams check everything in the morning. As things start to warm up, the levels might change. Obviously high G-force as well around T14 at the end, but it's stopped now, hasn't it? So we only got one little view of it, a little bit more there again. To me, it doesn't look like tyre smoke because it's quite blue, which normally has the tinge of oil in it. So just look to the rear right as it comes into shot under the brake light. You can just see it starting to come out there. Like I said, maybe just an oil breather, but that isn't what Darren Lung would want at the start of this session.
No, indeed, but if it's happening sort of through corners, it does give the impression, as you say, of oil or something sloshing around. He's not being phased by it, and the team seemingly is not worried about it, otherwise they'd told him to box.
Yeah, all the cars have live telemetry these days, so the teams almost have more information than the driver about all of that. So the drivers almost don't have to worry about any alarms these days because the team are on top of it, basically. As we go on board in Audi R8 into T14, turning a little bit early here for Team Lithuania. We obviously had Lithuania with two other drivers, so we are just getting up to speed at the moment. You can see moving around a little bit down the straight, just trying to generate a little bit more tyre temp on a pretty chilly morning. At the moment, we're only at 13 degrees ambient track temp, just below 15, so it will take 2 or 3 laps to get these tyres fully in the window. Yeah,
a lot cloudier this morning. There is a bit of a threat of rain for later on in the day as well. As you look at the Team Lithuania Audi, it is Alimantas Navickauskas who is doing the driving duties for his nation in GT Sprint. The car was well used yesterday and was quick as well, so this is one to watch, I suspect, as Navickauskas accelerates on the fastest. We've not really seen much of him yet, but we'll get there. It's Heinz Guven in the Schumacher CLRT run Porsche. Heinz Guven, who is a Porsche specialist, we've seen that, and he was a winner of the 2018 FIA GT Nations Cup, which really was what kicked off the whole FIA Motorsport Games initiative, and he and Salah Joric were the winners in Bahrain. But he's quickest at the moment in this single driver format from Darren Lung. We've not really yet got a time out of Finn Wiebelhaus nor Danny Junqueira. They are keeping their powder dry, to use the old cliche. But Team Turkey, which has been busy in the rallying disciplines, certainly has a really good chance of a gold medal in GT Sprint.
Yeah, currently 7th in the medal chart with 2 silvers. So they, with a gold medal here, could really lift themselves up, and I think they've got a very good chance of it in that Porsche, as we just see it coming shot just on the fastest lap of the race, 31.7. So still a little way to go to the fastest times that we potentially could see. I think in qualifying a low 1:30 from what the teams are saying.
Heinz Guven, who is a double Carrera Cup France champion, winner this year of the Bathurst 12 Hours, and has, although made his name, if you like, in these sort of single driver style races that the Carrera Cups and the Super Cup, Porsche Super Cup he's adapted into a very, very good multi-driver endurance racer as well. So probably one of the first people out of Turkey to really put themselves on the international racing map, and with due justification as well. Red Bull back driver as well, Heinz Guven. And he does definitely start as one of the favourites here. Yeah, it looks like he's backed out of this lap. Maybe just going to give the tyres a little breather. His lap, interestingly, 31.7. Like I said, I don't think that's going to be the ultimate pace in qualifying, but it is 2/10 quicker than anybody went yesterday in the qualifying. But obviously the highest graded driver were silvers, so Guven being a platinum is the shiniest metal you can get in the driver grading. So let's just watch, let's see if he starts to build it back up. So it's a lovely layout in the Porsche, isn't it? Look at the big number in the middle, that's the gear. That's all the drivers worried about. The small number above is the speed, that's irrelevant. The faster you go, the bigger that number gets, but you're already trying there. Then the lap timer. So you can see we're going to back off. Our fastest was a 31.7. This lap's going to be a 36 by the looks of it. And then we go again, 36.0. So his best lap on the bottom right, 31.7. That's his target. The number to the left of that is his delta. So at the moment, we're 300ths down. We're a little bit quicker through turn 1, half a tenth, now falling down all the way to first gear,
hard on the throttle. See the rev lights just all go blue when they wanted to shift up. They meet in the middle, nice and metronomic. It's well thought out, that Porsche dash. They've been making a race car for quite a few years now. I think they know exactly what the driver wants, able to run second gear all the way through, hard on the throttle, using the quirky engine position of the Porsche to aid the traction, really open in the corner up there. We've not seen people use the entry curve. You just see the flash of light to the right, that's the traction control, just saying I'm active. If you want to use me more, then attack the throttle, then hard on the brakes, all the way down to second. I would anticipate, get the front in, hook up the curb, out of the corner, unwind the lock, and then you can start to see what we've got through the sector. At the moment, I think we're just starting to see the car lose a little bit of rear grip, and that's why we're seeing the traction control start to move around. The Porsche layout, really nice. Got the rear view camera as well in the middle through turn 12. And then all the buttons on the centre are sort of emergency buttons. You can see the driver ID number here. Just because there's one driver, that's going to stay number one. That isn't a position indicator, which would be helpful to us, but at the moment isn't. Out the last corner, how are we looking? This lap, if I'm looking at his delta, should be a 31.8 would be my prediction. And he crosses the line, and he does a 1 minute 31.8. So the delta is correct. Great lap from Guven.
And that was a 10th down on his absolute best of the lap before. Finn Wiebelhaus has now gone second for Germany, 96 thousandths between them. And Darren Lung, who is third fastest, has now brought the Ferrari into the pit lane. Engine cover off and one or two slightly concerned faces. We saw that smoke. The AF Corsa team well versed in running Ferraris, but you could argue better it happens in a free practice session than qualifying or the race. But there's clearly something, because they wouldn't be doing all of this if they were happy.
If you were driving a car for the first time, David, at a track you've never driven, what would you want your free practice to go like?
Like clockwork, absolutely, without any dramas whatsoever. And
I feel a little for the AF Course team, because they've attacked this event completely correct. They were running the United Kingdom yesterday and Japan yesterday, and Darren Lung today in a third car. So it's not even like they're trying to use the same car to make their life easier. They've given him a completely fresh car that would have been prepped, but this is essentially their shakedown this morning.
Yeah, true.
So just a little unlucky there as we cut to Team Germany, who have now gone fastest on a 31.3, so 0.3 of a second quicker than Porsche with Guven and Team Turkey, and that's quicker than his qualifying yesterday as well. So it's obviously very quick this morning.
Now, as you look at Germany, we're still getting a bit worried about Team United Kingdom. Darren Lung in the pit lane, and Antonia Rankin is down there watching all of this. Whether she's joined in or not, I'm not sure in terms of helping, but she does at least have news. So, Antonia, we're worried about this Ferrari. What can you tell us?
Morning, everyone. Yeah, Darren Lung in the car number 91 is having some oil issues. It seems that there's just a leak somewhere. You'll see on your screen the mechanics are furiously wiping around everywhere. It doesn't seem like it's too big of an issue. Hopefully they'll get to the bottom of the leak, and Darren will soon be on his way.
Fingers crossed. All right, thanks, Antonia. 16 minutes of this free practice period remains, so they've got time to send him out again. But really, for Darren Lung, it's learning the track, learning the car.
Yeah, luckily he got a few laps in to wake himself up. So although they weren't full push laps, he'll now just be thinking about those laps in his mind, sat in the pits going, well, actually my break point for turn one compared to the simulator was miles out. I need to focus on that. So yes, he's not pounding kilometres in, but mentally he'll still be getting something from this as we see Team Germany pit after doing the fastest lap. So they literally went out, popped a lap in and had come in, and that's the positive for Wiebelhaus, having a full day yesterday in that car.
Yeah, they've got all the data, they've got all the setup. It's a car he knows anyway from racing in the ADAC GT Championship in Germany. It's a team he knows because of racing with it in the German GT Series. So Finn Wiebelhaus and I mentioned Guven, 3/10 split them, but it's only free practice. So you get the feeling anyway, don't you, that when we get to Superpole and it matters, up will be turned the wick. The slowest at the moment is from Chinese Taipei, 22 of Peter Yang, Carrera Cup Asia, GT and touring car racer. Just ahead of him is Saif Alameri, who's been racing in initially the Toyota GT86 Cup, but Porsche's and the Creventic series more recently. And Danny Junqueira is the dark horse in this, in as much as he's got himself up to third, but there is more to come. Whether he wants to sort of nail it a pole lap in this, I rather doubt, because he's just getting himself played in.
Yeah, I think he's about to do a lap that's probably going to put him P2, maybe split Team Germany and Team Turkey. But it actually looks like he's coming into the pits, which surprised me slightly, because this would have improved his lap time on his first two sectors. But yeah, he has boxed, so I think sometimes there's some mind games going on here. If you're confident, which obviously Junqueira would be with the package he's got. Mercedes, run by HRT, is a very strong package, of course, so maybe doesn't want to show what he's got until qualifying, when it's much harder to respond for his competitors. The Chinese Taipei car doing really well there. Turn 5, getting up to the apex curb, kicking up that little bit of dust, which just showing how hard they're all pushing. Track limits very prevalent on the exit of turn 6 as well there. Even that huge curb, trying to dissuade the drivers of running wide, they still want to open that corner up into 8. Can they get the car in? This is where you see a car, if it's got a little bit of understeer, really struggles to rotate, but looking good so far for Chinese Taipei. All over that curb, you can really take some of the angle out of it into 11. This is the corner where we saw some great action yesterday. Team Germany and United Kingdom doing very different lines as we cut to Junqueira getting pushed back into his position after being, like I said, on a push lap and looking very good all the way through the first 2 sectors.
So Danny Junqueira is currently the 3rd fastest, as we're getting an absolute best sector from earlier on. Improvement also coming in sectors from Peter Yang, or Yang Liao, but now Danny Junqueira, as we see, in the pit lane, and he is 0.6 of a second away from the top time, but it's only free practice. So at the moment, what they're trying to do is get the cars dialed in. The GT Sprint qualifying is at 10:25, so they've got, effectively just under 2 hours from the start of this session to the start of the next, and it could be that the track is a little bit warmer by then. That said, the very thick grey cloud we've got this morning doesn't give any indication of braking, so I think we're in for a cooler day and possibly even a wetter one.
Yeah, it's a completely different outlook, isn't it, today than yesterday? And we were surprised yesterday how long it took to dry with the overnight storm. With it being that much colder, all the teams just getting their tyre pressure data. We saw a couple of interesting things in the race yesterday, didn't we, of Team China and Team France showing the mechanical failure flag, the meatball flag, and we do now know that was definitely for tyre pressure issues on the grid. They were below the minimum, so they had to come in and prove that they were then above, but that just ruins your race. So if it's a bit cooler today, your starting pressures will have to be a bit higher to make sure you don't fall foul of the same fate those 2 cars did.
Well, that had to be done during the race. It was discussed rapidly in race control, should we get them in at the end of the formation lap, but the race director pointed out that at least one of the cars in question was on the other side of the grid, so it would have to cut across the traffic, which just would not have been safe. So the safer way was to bring them in during the race itself, but I think after yesterday, the team as well are now aware that they do need to adhere to the regulation on the tyre pressures. Now, you're on board with the Lamborghini. This is Jasmin Jaafar. He is currently 5th in the times, and he's gone green in the first sector. In other words, a personal best. So Jasmin Jaafar looking good as the drone chases after him. Now dropping down towards turn 8, which is a corner that goes on and on and on. Then there's the quick kink at 9, left at 10, left again at 11. This next sequence of corners, hard on the brakes, down through this hairpin, and then you've got the short straight along to the really exciting corner of turn 12.
Yeah, that long right at 11, any understeer hurts you. 12, my favourite corner of the lap here at Valencia. You can see how much curb he used on the inside. His right-hand wheel's popping up in the air. Easy flat round the kink at 13, but look how much the road drops away. Spot your apex on the left, hook it up to the inside, but be careful of track limits all the way to the white line, but not beyond. Look at the rev lights, completely different dash layout to the Porsche we had earlier. We've seen some track limit warnings flash above us. That's car number 8, and that's the car we're on board. So we were getting warned as we're on board into 1. 4th gear through here, so a difference to the Porsche out wide. I don't like the dash layout quite as much as the Porsche. There's more to look at as a driver. Down to 2nd gear, down to 1st, so same as the Porsche for the slow speed turn number 2. Are we flat through 3? I'll go quiet. Easy flat, V10 screaming all the way. Hook up the curb on the apex of 4. A little bit too wide for my liking there. Opens up the entry nice, but then look at the oversteer. Have we worked the tyre a little bit too hard? I can spot his delta as well. At the moment, we're 1/10 and a half down on our best. And so what, we're going to get out of this corner? Can we get a good exit? Watch the delta grow. It's the rectangular box on the right-hand side above all the green. No, it's 2.5 tenths down now. Falling, and as a driver, it's the worst feeling in the world. That time is lost forever. The next time you'll see it is when your eyes close on your last breath of your life. And it literally feels that important, but we have had a good exit out of 8 into 9. just watching the Delta flow. The problem with the Delta as a racing driver is when it's good, it's your best friend. When it's bad, you don't want to believe it, and you start to sort of doubt yourself and maybe even overdrive. Look at the curb we're using at 12. I love that. I haven't seen many GT cars using it, more of a touring car style. Now a little bit wide on the brake point, so I think that's going to make it harder for the brake zone, and that's the problem. 13 naturally compromises your brake point for 14, and we didn't just open it up quite enough, in my opinion, and that's why we had that snap of oversteer, and we're still getting the warning flag a lap later. Good lap from Jafar, but it looks like to me that the rear tyre maybe is being overworked more than that Porsche.
It was a 33.5, his best was a 33.3. The 0.2 on the Delta did not lie again, did it? So he was down by those 0.2 of a second as we've got just under 9 minutes of free practice to go. Germany from Turkey, as you look now at the UAE Porsche of Saif Al-Ameri. He is currently the 8th driver in the classification as the Porsche accelerates now up towards the timing line. He improved in the first sector of this lap, and the middle sector was a little bit slower. He breaks the beam, and we await the lap time to be confirmed. It is slightly slower, 0.4 down on his earlier best. But here you've got really the need to learn about a GT3 car, the need to learn about the track as well.
Yeah, there's so much to take in. It would be sensory overload. It's a track that's getting used more and more these days. 25 years old now, Valencia, but it's not the most common test track for a lot of GT drivers. For example, I've probably been here 4 times in my life, whereas somewhere like Monza, Paul Ricardo, I've been 40. So it really doesn't get used as much. So there's not many drivers that have been here organically before. Just want to shout out to Darren Lung, actually, who's obviously back on track, which is mega. But one thing that's probably even more mega for him is actually his pace. Now 1.6 seconds off of his last lap being his best, a 33.0. I think that is a strong effort from a bronze-rated driver. That is, I think, going to be above expectation for himself. After he was a little nervy this morning after I spoke to him, but that is a mega job, so congratulations.
But he's a shiny bronze, isn't he, Darren Lung? He has done so much racing, considering that he only started in 2021 in the GT Academy, the Ginetta Championship. He went into British GT, won first time out, won the championship in 23. This year he's done a lot of World Challenge Europe, WEC, Le Mans, British GT on occasions. There is no stopping the guy. So he's done so many miles, and he's always had good co-drivers to learn from as well. It's going to be fascinating there to see how he gets on back in a single driver contest, of course, because his recent successes have been with a co-driver. Yes, of course, he has to play a part, but the fact that he's improving his lap time all the while in that Ferrari is good. Saif Al-Ameri has also just improved, 1:36.2. There is Darren Lung in the AF Corsa run Ferrari, so learning track, learning car, learning Italian as he gets himself with the new team. So Darren Lung, who really does take his racing very seriously. He has always been regular at the gym, but lost a load of weight over the winter, really focusing on his racing. Recently made a member of the British Racing Drivers Club as well, which illustrates the success he's had over the last couple of years. Yeah,
Mega improves his lap time again, 32.8, so now 1.4 seconds behind the fastest of Wiebelhaus. So there's no stopping him at the moment. You're right with his training. Makes me feel guilty. Every day I go on my Instagram and Darren Lung has just bench pressed 900 kilos, one-armed, and then done a 500-kilometre race on one leg. So Wiebelhaus back out, currently still fastest, getting a bit of traffic in front of him from Lithuania. Flash of the headlights, we saw a bit of that yesterday, didn't we, from Wiebelhaus when Froggatt from Team United Kingdom got past him. So all the drivers well versed with their right thumb in that Mercedes on how to flash the headlights.
And Finn Wiebelhaus then making his way up towards the timing line. Danny Juncadella is being given the driving standards warning flag, the black and white driving standards flag for the dreaded track limits. Wiebelhaus then across the line. That was a 1:31.7, about 0.4 down on his earlier best. Einstein Guven still sitting in the pit lane and not looking at the moment as though he is overly concerned about being back out. Guven knows the car. I don't think he need really worry about the circuit because he'll pick that up very quickly, and he has raced on it in other categories anyhow. So he'll be there or thereabouts. And Danny Juncadella is third, and he's another 3/10 back. So the leading three covered by 6/10 of a second. I reckon that's good enough to give us a really good race.
Yeah, and I think people are sitting in the pits because there's a bit of a split strategy on tyres. So there's 2 sets of new tyres for them today. So they've obviously had to use one in this session. I think they're trying to keep the mileage off them and then use them in the race. They'll use another new set in qualifying, but I think they will have more laps on them than these tyres in free practice, so they won't be as fresh as we go to Junqueira, who's just got that warning for track limits. The 2 shots we've just seen there, fully legal, and then he does a fully illegal one at 12, but I don't think 12 is being policed. So as a racing driver, it's only illegal if you get caught, so that was legal in my opinion, even though he was fully illegal. Here, you have to be legal, and that's the minefield of motorsport as a driver, in my opinion, at the moment, track limits. It's fair for all, but fair for others if you don't know fully where to go. On board looking super relaxed. A couple of cars leaving. It's a hard pit exit. Jafar there doing well, staying out of the way in the Malaysian Lamborghini around turn 1. That's probably just on the limit of legality. One wheel has to stay in contact with the track or white line at all times. Mercedes only going down to 2nd gear at turn 2 there, so slightly longer ratio. All these manufacturers have to homologate their gear ratios. It's not like other motorsport disciplines where the gear ratios can be changed per circuit. They have to be locked in. So Mercedes normally would look to lock in their ratio, for the Nordschleife, obviously the long dotting a hoe straight. A lot of the other manufacturers that don't have the Nordschleife in their rematch use Bathurst as their VMAX speed, so maybe that would be the difference there, but the V8 so much torque as well, maybe doesn't need to be revving itself so hard to get the power it needs.
Junqueira has improved last time, so he's now half a second down, not 6/10. Darren Lung's improved again at 1:32.8, so he's 1.4 seconds away from pole. Also, Lithuania is going quicker, Chinese Taipei going quicker, and the UAE going quicker. So all of this extra track time helping some of the less experienced of the drivers because they're finding time and they're improving all the while with just under 3 minutes of the session to go now. So this is the run up through turn 13, heading towards the end of the lap. So Junqueira to the line, going to stay out for one more lap as he comes up, breaks the beam, and the Team Spain Mercedes goes through. Sector 1 was down, Sector 2 was down, and the lap was down as well. A full second lost on that lap.
Yeah, just a couple of mistakes, maybe the tyres just coming out of the window somewhat. But yeah, you can see with the driver as well, a couple of points of interest. He's left foot braking, so his right leg is only doing the throttle. So as we come into turn number 4, you'll see his left leg, if we were still there, just hitting the brake pedal. There's still quite a different split on what drivers do between right and left foot braking. The younger drivers predominantly use their left leg. That's a single-seater karting trait, but the right leg sometimes affords you a little more feel. So there isn't a right and a wrong. It is just personal preference. As we go back to Team United Kingdom Green, Sector 1, not an improvement in 2, a couple of tenths off the best I've seen Darren Lung do in Sector 2. So will this be an improvement? I think probably not, but still it's going to be a competitive lap. 32.8 is current best. He breaks the line, and this lap is a 1:33.1. So within 3 tenths, showing good consistency and no smoke.
And he'll get certainly 1 lap out of this, maybe 2, although for Darren, we've not got long to go, have we, before the checkered flag comes out. So he's up at 2 at the minute. So it is at the moment Germany, Turkey, Spain, United Kingdom, Malaysia, Lithuania, Chinese Taipei, and then UAE. That is the order. Darren Lung with the road to himself, but dialing himself into a new and very different style of GT car. There are lots of Ferraris here this weekend because we have the GT single make discipline as well, which is going to be a single race coming up later on in the day. And that's for the 296 Challenge cars. This is the 296 GT3 with its very different looking rear to the car. But we're into the last minute of free practice then. And 1 or 2 nations still improving times, including Malaysia. Jasmine Jafar hunting down improvements in sectors as he tries to get onto the same sort of pace as Darren Lung. And actually that's going to be, I think, our battle for 4th place, isn't it? Lung and Jafar covered by not quite half a second.
Yeah, the gaps are small. All the 8 cars, there's tenths between all of them. So there's going to be a few battle packs forming. I think, like you called at the start, I think you've got the medal race between the current top 3. In which order, I wouldn't want to predict just yet off 30 minutes of running. And then, yeah, I think you've got 4th, 5th and 6th running relatively close, and then another battle pack behind. But I think it's going to be interesting as well with Darren. His improvement won't have stopped here. He gets out the car, looks at the data and the video. He loves all the analysis side of it too, and I think he did just squeeze a lap in. You are correct. He had a second to spare, so an extra lap around this 4 kilometres here at Valencia.
And Darren Lung for United Kingdom, 4th fastest, so it is still Germany topping the times. Finn Wiebelhaus coming into this as a gold medalist. Germany 4th in the medal table. They've got one of each, a gold, a silver and a bronze. The medal table at the moment being led by Spain with 4 golds, 2 silvers. Brazil got its first gold yesterday, backed that up with a second. The first gold coming in GT esports as well. That is another discipline that runs. We've got single-seater racing from F4 on the track and GT likewise, and the esports equivalent with single driver races for GT and the new sort of FIA style F4 esports car being brought into the FIA Motorsport Games this year. Flag is out then, free practice is at an end, and Finn Wiebelhaus topping the times. Ayenchen Guven, interestingly, did go back out and improved in the last sector to take the flag, and he was about 3/10 off his earlier best. So for Team Turkey, he's taken the checkered flag. The Schumacher CLRT Porsche will make its way to the pit lane. Dani Juncadella is already in the pits, and 1 or 2 others circulating. Lithuania improving at the end. Alimantas Navikauskas went and did a 1:34.0. He's 7/10 back from Jazemin Jafar. So Lung, Jafar, Navikauskas, there's a battle. I think he's on the coattails of it at the moment, but by the end of qualifying, with more mileage, I think Navikauskas and that Audi may well be nearer to the pace of Jafar, who in turn will be nearer to Lung.
Yeah, and Lung pitting, even though he could have finished the lap, obviously. I don't think he got held up by Chinese Taipei there around turn 13. Chinese Taipei, Mercedes did a mega job getting out of the way there, but obviously decided, maybe I'll just take a lap out these tyres and just save it for later. But yeah, the session went quickly, and it also kind of went to what we expected in terms of pace. I would say my maybe standout surprise is Wiebelhaus being fastest. Obviously a silver graded driver against 2 platinum graded drivers behind him. So mega job by Germany, but obviously a day of advantage yesterday.
I was going to ask, is that behind it, or do we just think that free practice people are doing different things? I mean, he had a lot of running yesterday, 2 one-hour races, so effectively 2 half-hour stints, plus all the practice mileage and the like. So he's certainly coming into this with a little bit more of an advantage for track time, but I still don't think Ayenchen Guven would say, well, I'm learning the track. I think he's just perhaps working through a programme with the Schumacher CLRT team. Let's have a look at the order then at the end of free practice for GT Sprint. Germany topping the times. This doesn't affect the grid, it just gives you an idea of who's quick early doors. So Germany, Finn Wiebelhaus ahead of Turkey's Ayenchen Guven. Dani Juncadella 3rd for Spain. Darren Lung, the United Kingdom representative, 4th. Malaysia's Jazemin Jafar 5th, and for Lithuania, Alimantas Navikauskas was 6th. Peter Yang 7th ahead of Saif Alameri, that's Chinese Taipei, ahead of the UAE. So for Germany, good start of the day, and continuing that impressive run yesterday when they got a gold medal in GT endurance, if you like, the GT category, the double driver. It wasn't an endurance race per se, but just to differentiate between this and the 2 driver, let's add that word on. So Germany from Turkey. It's going to be fascinating, not just when we get to the qualifying session, but to Superpole, and that is always a joy, isn't it? Because it is effectively all eyes on one driver. It is him and the clock. There's no restriction. It is just the bravery of that driver and how precise they can be.
Yeah, it's the purest you ever get it as a driver as well. No traffic, a new set of tyres, low fuel, especially early on in the morning as well. The track temperature for Superpole would still be relatively low as we see drivers getting out of the car. Half an hour session, but still hard work out there. We've said it yesterday, 14 corners in 4 kilometres means that you never really get a huge break as a driver apart from the obvious start-finish straight. The team's running this reverse garage setup, so this is paddock side, not pit lane side. And just allowing greater fan access, which has been really popular this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. It was trialled in Vallelunga for our first FIA Motorsport Games, and other championships have taken hold of this. For example, it happens quite regularly these days in touring car racing in the UK, but it's a really good idea. There is the United Kingdom Ferrari, which has gone in nose first, and still they're looking with the engine cover off. So scratch your head as to how big a problem that is, because clearly it went back out and improved lap times, but maybe they're just still a little bit concerned about a possible issue with that car.
Yeah, I mean, at least it won't go rusty now. Everything's covered in oil, so that's the positive of it. But yeah, the teams haven't really got enough time to do an in-depth dive in to see it. So if it's okay, leave it and put some more fuel in for quali would be my AF course strategy there.
Now, Porsche represented, and so too the United Arab Emirates. Saif Al-Amari is the driver for the UAE. He's with Antonio Rankin in the pits.
Saif, this is your first time, you said, in Valencia and in the GT3 Porsche. How have you been finding it?
It's really exciting, and I would love to stay more. The car is lovely, and they can. There is a big potential for me to improve, but you know, the schedule is very small, and we have a half an hour of practice. Anyway, I find it very nice, and I love the car.
With such a short time to learn and get to grips with everything, do you think you'll be able to be competitive for the race?
For me, the main challenge is to represent my country in a good shape. This is a first step for my country to participate in the FIA Games. I hope to represent in a good way and encourage more people into this.
So many drivers have talked about their pride in representing their country. The UAE is so underrepresented in motorsport, so this must mean a lot to you.
For me, it's a big stepstone for. Thanks God we have the best leaders and we are the best on everything. And now the gap to close it in terms of sports.
Have a great day. Thank you very much.
So it's good to have the UAE, of course, represented within this discipline, and the nations, of course, embrace GT racing. If you think back, the UAE first had a GT race, FIA GT as it was in 2004. The Dubai Autodrome was built that year. There had been a race in Dubai in 1981, a sort of rather crudely built street circuit, and Dubai then very, very different from what you have now. But you look at the number of categories that have been brought into racing in the UAE and Bahrain and Qatar, for example, and how the sport has grown in what actually, if you think about it, is quite a long time now, 20 years. It feels like yesterday the circuit opened, but it's been growing all the time, the sport in the region. So there is the United Kingdom Ferrari. Darren Lung is the man that is representing the UK in GT Sprint. Let's hear from him.
Darren, it must be a huge challenge to get to grips with this Ferrari in such difficult conditions and a very short amount of time to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's 20 minutes basically, 30 minutes is what I've got to come and kind of get dialed into the circuit and a new car. Obviously, I picked to drive the new car today because the reality is 30 minutes is just going to be nowhere near enough time to shake the car down and figure out setup and stuff. So the guys did a mega job getting Chris and James in a good window yesterday and the day before. So I'm just kind of piggybacking off where they had left off, and yeah, seems like the car's obviously doing a reasonable job, and yeah, it's my second time driving it now, so yeah, still a lot to learn, I think.
Yeah, definitely, but we've seen your success in an M4. We know how good of a driver you are, so why are you in a Ferrari this weekend?
Yeah, so it's purely just down to the fact that I just never had enough time to prep. I only get 30 minutes. You know, the other guys had 2.5 hours of practice, so if you just do the sprint race, you only get half an hour. So I just had to make use of whatever learning I could find, really. So the only way to really maximise that is to be in the same car as my teammates. So that's the reason why. If it was down to me, then we'd all be driving BMWs.
What are some of the differences you've noticed in the short time you've had between the Ferrari and the BMW?
Yeah, so I'd say first of all, they're both two of the best made cars. You know, when you're sitting in it and you see the guys working on it, sort of really well thought through. Then how they achieve the lap time couldn't be any more different. So with the BMW, it's all about the straight line performance, kind of getting a stop, turn and go. Whereas the Ferrari is the polar opposite. So it's all about maximising the mid-corner speed. But luckily, you know, James and Chris are good drivers, and they set down some decent data and video. So I was learning that until, I didn't leave here until 11 o'clock at night with the engineer. So I did everything I could to try and get as up to speed as possible with zero track time. So, yeah, they were the big differences, really.
You've done a brilliant job so far. Good luck this weekend. Thank you.
Great character, Darren Lung, as well, and somebody that we have got used to seeing in GT and sports car paddocks since he came into the sport only in 2021. So, as I say, he's achieved a lot in a short space of time. And he will certainly be pitching for a medal when we get to the GT Sprint race this afternoon. Free practice for the GT Sprint discipline began with a flash of the lights from Team Turkey at Spain as they almost came to blows in the pit lane, but contact averted, and Malaysia was out on track as Jasmine Jafar in the Lamborghini was trying to improve a lap time and get himself used to a GT3 spec Lamborghini, having raced in Super Trofeo this year. Chinese Taipei's Peter Yang was on track yesterday and using that experience to good effect, and Saif Alameri, new to the track and new to GT3, had an early spin but was able to recover. He managed to get his lap times down over the course of the session. Others, though, just got faster and faster, and it was always looking good between Germany, Turkey and Spain. Lithuania, a little bit further back in the times, 6th in the end for Lithuania. Darren Lung had early smoke, bit of an oil leak, but that was easily sorted by the AF Corsa team. He was sent back out and using the setup from his teammates from the GT2 driver discipline of yesterday was able to get quicker and quicker. Dani Junqueira, though, for Spain, the home nation and the medal table leader going into Sunday morning, ended up third fastest. Team Turkey second, courtesy of Ayhan Şengüven, and he's many people's tip for gold. We'll find out later on if that is going to be the case. But the top time claimed by a gold medal winner of yesterday, because Finn Bieberhaus for Germany won in GT, and he wants another gold in GT Sprint. And he's gone the right way about it with the fastest time in free practice for GT before we get to qualifying and Super Pole later in the morning.